This conference will now be recorded.
Half an hour. 40 minutes.
One more problem will end this.
All of you are able to hear? All of you are able to hear? All of you are able to hear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we have finished with the thyroid malignancies, thyroid tumors, and also that is hypo and hypothyroidism and thyroid tumors, pituitary tumors, adrenal tumors, everything. So sometimes we never know. Sometimes they may give something about Hashimoto's thyroiditis, Riddle's thyroiditis. So some autoimmune conditions of the thyroid also, it's better we know something about these autoimmune conditions of thyroid. So like sometimes you may get Hashimoto's thyroiditis as a short notes or a very short notes. So Riddle's thyroiditis, de Quervain's thyroiditis. So any of these can be given as short or very short notes. So briefly, if we just go through what is Hashimoto's thyroiditis, so we'll be having basic knowledge of how a thyroid looks in Hashimoto's thyroiditis and what are the histopathological features, all that, because sometimes we never know. They may give Hashimoto's thyroiditis or short or very short notes because few question papers have given. So we'll deal a little bit about autoimmune disorders, which are very rarely given in the question papers. Okay. So Hashimoto's thyroiditis is also an autoimmune, also called as autoimmune thyroiditis. So the other names for Hashimoto's thyroiditis are chronic lymphocytic thyroiditis, struma lymphomatosa, goitrous autoimmune thyroiditis, or diffuse lymphocytic thyroiditis. So it is an autoimmune thyroiditis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So also called as diffuse lymphocytic thyroiditis, chronic lymphocytic thyroiditis, struma lymphomatosa, goitrous autoimmune thyroiditis. So why this lymphocytic thyroiditis is microscopically you have predominantly lymphocytes. So on microscopy or histopathologically you have predominantly lymphocytes in this particular condition. That's why it is called chronic or lymphocytic thyroiditis. So what do you see in case of Hashimoto's thyroiditis? Clinically, the patient has diffuse enlargement of the thyroid. For example, in multinodular goiter, you have nodular enlargement of thyroid. So solitary nodular enlargement. But in case of Hashimoto's, this is one condition where you have diffuse enlargement of thyroiditis, and as I've already said, histopathologically you have lymphocytic infiltration. Most common infiltrate that you find histopathologically is nothing but lymphocytic infiltration. And why it is called as autoimmune thyroiditis? Because you have the formation of autoantibodies to the thyroid receptor, TSH receptors. So that's why it is called as autoantibody. So it is also called as diffuse lymphocytic thyroiditis bar chronic lymphocytic thyroiditis. You have diffuse enlargement of thyroid, predominantly lymphocytic infiltration of the thyroid, and you have thyroid autoantibody formation. So now clinical features, most commonly it is seen in case of middle-aged females, that is 30 to 50 years of age. So major cause is nothing but goitrous hypothyroidism. So hypothyroidism. So where the iodine supplies are adequate. So goitrous hypothyroidism in regions where iodine supplies are adequate. So mostly common in middle-aged female, 30 to 50 years. So where iodine intake is more, the regions where iodine intake is more have higher incidence of Hashimoto's thyroiditis, like in Japan and US, where the iodine intake is more. So there you have, and wherever there is goitrous hypothyroid regions, there you have this particular condition. So why the name Hashimoto's? So because this was a condition which was first discovered by Dr. Hakaru Hashimoto, a Japanese surgeon. That's why it is called as Hashimoto's thyroiditis. In the year 1912, Hakaru Hashimoto, a Japanese surgeon in the year 1912. That is why it is called as Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So it is a first autoimmune disease of any organ. So it is an autoimmune condition, as we know, because of autoantibody formation. So, and it was first discovered by Dr. Hakaru Hashimoto's. Other autoimmune conditions, you know, are Graves' disease, systemic lupus erythematosus, Sjogren's syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis, pernicious anemia, where you have autoantibody formation. Similarly, type 1 diabetes mellitus. So that is insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. So all these conditions you have autoantibody formation. So what happens here? What is the pathogenesis of Hashimoto's thyroiditis? So you know that there is autoantibody formation. Why you have autoantibody formation? So what is the reason? So why you have this autoantibody formation in Hashimoto's thyroiditis? So usually what happens is cytotoxic lymphocytic associated antigen, CTLA4 T cell regulatory gene. So what happens here is there is activation of T lymphocytes. So that is CD4 plus T helper lymphocyte and as well as CD8 plus T lymphocytic activation. So both CD4 plus T helper lymphocytes are activated as well as CD8 plus T cytotoxic lymphocytes both are activated, as well as B cells are also activated, and there is autoantibody formation and destruction of the thyroid parenchyma. So what happens in this condition? You have lymphocytic activation, that is T lymphocytic activation, that is CD4 plus T helper lymphocytes are activated. Also CD8 plus T cytotoxic lymphocytes are also activated. Apart from that, B cells are activated. So because of that, there is autoantibody formation and destruction of the thyroid parenchyma. So mainly it is nothing but cytotoxic lymphocyte associated 4 antigen T regulatory gene which causes all this, CTLA gene which causes this immune destruction of thyroid cells. So what is the gene that is responsible? CTLA4 gene, that is cytotoxic lymphocyte associated antigen 4 T cell regulatory gene which causes this destruction of the thyroid cells because of activation of CD4 plus T helper cell and also CD8 plus T lymphocytes, and apart from that B cell activation resulting in the formation of an autoantibody and destruction of the thyroid parenchyma. This is the regulatory gene CTL4 or cytotoxic lymphocyte associated 4 gene. So in Hashimoto's thyroiditis, the basic pathogenesis is activation of CD4 plus T lymphocyte, as we already know, and CD8 plus T lymphocyte, and as well as activation of the B lymphocytes. So this is the main pathogenesis. So what happens? So there is activation of CD4 plus T lymphocyte, that is helper CD4 plus T lymphocyte, activation of CD8 plus T cell, that is cytotoxic CD8 plus T cell, autoreactivity. So that is what will happen. So there is destruction of the thyroid cells leading to, that is apoptosis of the thyroid cells. Cytotoxic T lymphocytes are activated and destruction of the thyroid cells leading to apoptosis. Similarly, there is activation of B lymphocytes which causes activation of the plasma cells, and because of that what will happen, there is autoantibody formation against the thyroid cells which is leading to necrosis and apoptosis and ultimately leading to hypothyroidism. So this is what happens in Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So Hashimoto's thyroiditis, there is activation of CD4 plus T lymphocytes as well as CD8 plus T lymphocyte as well as B lymphocyte. Now CD4 plus T lymphocyte in turn activates CD8 plus T cells which are nothing but cytotoxic or destroys the thyroid cells. Cytotoxic and destroys the thyroid cells. So these are nothing but cytotoxic T lymphocyte, CD8 plus T cell, which causes destruction of the thyroid cells. Ultimately, whatever thyroid cells are dead, they get degraded by the process of apoptosis. Similarly, when the B lymphocytes are activated, what will happen? They will cause activation of plasma cells, and plasma cells will cause auto-antibody formation against the thyroid cells, leading to necrosis as well as apoptosis. Ultimately, there is the death of the thyroid cells, leading to hypothyroidism. So now, where are the autoantibodies formed? Very, very important. So autoantibodies are formed against thyroid microsomal autoantibodies, follicular cell membrane autoantibody, TSH receptor autoantibody, thyroglobulin autoantibody, autoantibodies against thyroid hormone or colloid component and other thyroglobulin. So these are the autoantibody formation. So where are the autoantibody formed? So that is thyroid microsomal autoantibodies and also follicular cell membrane autoantibodies, autoantibodies against TSH receptor and thyroglobulin autoantibodies against thyroglobulin, antibodies against thyroid hormone and colloid component other than thyroglobulin. So TSH receptor antibodies on the surface of the thyroid cells. So because of the antibodies against the TSH receptors, what will happen? There is inhibitory function of the TSH leading to hypothyroidism. Similar antibody also you can see in case of Graves' disease. So which causes hyperthyroidism. TSH receptor antibody, what will they cause? They depress or stimulate the thyroid cells leading to hypo and hypothyroidism. That's why in case of Hashimoto's thyroiditis, you have either hypo or hyperthyroidism. So where all you can see autoantibody formation because of B lymphocyte activation against thyroid microsomal antibody, cell membrane antibodies, TSH receptor antibody, thyroglobulin antibodies, antibodies against T3 and T4 hormones and colloid components. Also you have autoantibody formation. Now, when the autoantibody is formed against TSH receptor, what will happen? Whatever function of the TSH is there, thyroid stimulating hormone is there, that is inhibited. Because of that, there is no release of T3 or T4, and because of that, there is suppression of release of T3 and T4. Because of that, you have hypothyroidism. So there is antibodies against the receptors of thyroid stimulating hormone leading to hypothyroidism. Similarly, there is antibody in Graves' disease which causes hyperthyroidism. Now, TSH receptor antibody, what will it cause? It will depress the function of thyroid cells, reduce release of T3 or T4 leading to hypothyroidism, sometimes stimulates the function of thyroid cells, which is leading to hyperthyroidism. That's why in Hashimoto's thyroiditis, you have episodes of hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism. So what is the genetic basis? It is an autoimmune condition. So it should have a genetical susceptibility. So it is more common in case of first degree relatives of affected patient. So more often the patient has HLA-DR3 and also HLA-DR5 subtype. So genetic susceptibility is it has high incidence in first degree relatives, for high incidence in first degree relatives and more susceptibility to HLA-DR3 and also HLA-DR5 subtypes. So this is the pathogenesis of Hashimoto's thyroiditis, very, very important. So once they give Hashimoto's thyroiditis, you will write all these things. So what is the pathogenesis which is involved, and also this particular diagram, clinical features, pathogenesis. So what are the other names it is caused, what are the pathogenesis, and then this particular diagram. So this is nothing but the thyroid epithelium. So what will happen? There is breakdown in self-tolerance and induction of thyroid autoimmunity. So there is autoimmunity against the thyroid epithelial cells. So what will happen? Why you have that particular autoantibody and destruction of the thyroid cells? One is activation of CD8 plus cytotoxic T cells. Cytotoxic means injury to the cell, toxic to the cell, cytotoxic, injury to the thyroid cells. So activation of CD8 plus T lymphocyte, what will it cause? It will cause destruction of the thyroid epithelial cells or thyroid cells. So that is thyroid follicular cells. So leading to T cell mediated cytotoxicity, injury to the thyroid cells or thyroid epithelial cells. So cytotoxic CD8 lymphocytes. Now how do they bind? So with the help of FASL, FASL ligand to the FASL receptor, FAS receptor. That is how they bind. Similarly, you know, there is activation of CD4 plus T lymphocytes. So what do they cause? So they cause macrophage activation by interferon gamma, which causes injury to the thyroid epithelial cells or thyrocyte. Similarly, plasma cells, they cause release of autoantibodies against the thyrocytes. So these autoantibodies causes the destruction of the thyroid epithelial cell. Apart from that, natural killer cell also causes destruction of the thyroid epithelial cell. Antibody mediated, cell mediated the cytotoxicity, ultimately destruction of the thyroid epithelial cell. So this is very, very important. So what happens is ultimately there is destruction of the thyroid epithelial cells or the thyrocyte, either by CD8 plus T lymphocyte or CD4 plus T lymphocyte or plasma cells. So all these ultimately they cause destruction of the thyroid epithelial cells or thyrocyte by various mechanisms. CD8 plus T lymphocyte attached to the thyrocyte by the help of FASL ligand to the FASL receptor, leading to cytotoxicity, T cell mediated cytotoxicity and destruction of the thyroid epithelial cells. Similarly, CD4 plus T lymphocyte causes activation of interferon gamma, which leads to activation of macrophages, which causes thyrocyte injury. Similarly, plasma cells, what do they cause? They cause activation of autoantibodies or antibodies against the thyrocytes, which causes destruction of the thyroid epithelial cells. Apart from that, activation of natural killer cells, which causes destruction of thyrocytes or thyroid epithelial cells, which is antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity. So this is the pathogenesis, very important. So antibody mediated natural killer cell mediated injury of the thyrocytes because of activation of the plasma cells. So morphologically, what are the various forms of pathological forms? You have a classical form of Hashimoto's thyroiditis and very rarely fibrosing variant of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. One is the classical form and another variety is fibrosing variant of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Gross. So when you have the cut section of the thyroid, so what do you see? So there is diffuse enlargement of the thyroid, diffuse enlargement of thyroid, and the consistency of the thyroid gland is firm and rubbery, symmetrical and diffuse enlargement of thyroid. Weight is usually 100 to 300 gram. So cut section, you have lymph nodal consistency, means many lobulation, fleshy with many lobulation, lymph node like consistency, and shape of the gland is normal. Now what will happen in fibrosing variant? So what will happen? It is usually firm because of excessive fibrosis. The gland is usually firm and enlarged with compression of surrounding tissue. So there are two forms, classical form and fibrosing form. Classical form, grossly, there is diffuse enlargement of thyroid, firm and rubbery consistency you can have. Weight is 100 to 300 gram. Cut section, so it is fleshy with lymph nodal consistency. Means many lobulations will be there on thyroid, on cut section. Shape is normal. Fibrosing variant, what will happen? So the thyroid consistency is firm because of fibrous tissue and it is enlarged thyroid gland. So this is in case of Hashimoto's. Diffuse enlargement of thyroiditis. So you have firm rubbery consistency, firm rubbery consistency. You can see that there are multiple lobulations, gray-white lobulation. This is nothing but like a lymph node. So lymph nodal consistency you will have. So diffuse enlargement of thyroid with firm rubbery consistency, and cut section you have lymph nodal appearance, so like a lymph node, so single lymph node. So gray white lymph nodal appearance. So what histology, what you have? So microscopically, we already know that entire mechanism is on CD4 plus T lymphocytes, CD8 plus T lymphocytes, and nothing but B lymphocytes. So all lymphocytes involvement is there. So what you will have excessive of lymphocytes. That is why it is called as lymphocytic thyroiditis. So on histology, what you will have lymphocytes with lymphoid follicle formation with germinal center. Apart from lymphocytes, you can have plasma cells and the cells with abundant granular eosinophilic cytoplasm. These cells are nothing but follicular cells, thyroid follicular cells with abundant eosinophilic granular cytoplasm, which are also called as Huttel cells or Ashkenazi cells or oxyphilic cells. And apart from that, you have fibrosis. So these are the main features. So in classical form, what you have? So nothing but lymphocytes. Extensive infiltration of the gland microscopically by lymphocytes, occasionally by plasma cells, immunoblast, macrophages. And these lymphocytes, what they form? They form a lymphoid follicles with germinal center. So you have less of thyroid follicles, and these whatever follicles are there, thyroid follicles, they're atrophic. What you have are more lymphoid follicles, lymphocytes with germinal centers, plasma cells, immunoblast, and macrophages. Now, whatever follicular epithelial cells are there, they undergo Ashkenazi change or oxyphilic change or oncocytic change, means cells with abundant granular eosinophilic cytoplasm. Why they have that eosinophilia or granular cytoplasm? Because of mitochondrial activity. So granular eosinophilic cytoplasm they have. And apart from that, they have fibrous thickening of septa separating thyroid lobules. Apart from that, they have fibrosis, which are separating thyroid lobules. So lymphocytes and plasma cells, lymphoid follicles with germinal center, follicular epithelial cells showing Huttel cell change, that is granular, eosinophilic cytoplasm, Ashkenazi oxyphilic oncocytic change because of mitochondrial activity, and fibrosis of septa. All this you can see. And you also have decreased number of thyroid follicles or atrophic thyroid follicles. So when you look at this, it is nothing but thyroid cut section. It is Hashimoto's because you have lymphoid follicles with germinal center. Lymphoid follicles, all these are lymphoid follicles with germinal center. So you don't see any, very few atrophic, see, very few thyroid follicles with choroid. These are nothing but atrophic thyroid follicles with choroid, very few. But what you see are lymph node, it's like a lymph node, lymphoid follicles with germinal center. Though it is a thyroid, it is like a lymph node, lymphoid follicles with germinal center. And you can see atrophic thyroid follicle with colloid. And most of the thyroid follicular cells, whatever are they appear having abundant granular eosinophilic cytoplasm, that is nothing but Ashkenazi chain. So lymphoid follicles and the thyroid follicular epithelial cells, whatever are there, they have abundant granular eosinophilic cytoplasm, that is Ashkenazi chain. So lymphoid follicles on high power, and these are nothing but thyroid follicles. The follicular epithelial cell, you can see that they don't appear normal, like cuboidal or columnar. What you see is follicles with abundant granular eosinophilic cytoplasm or Ashkenazi chain. So thyroid follicles with abundant granular eosinophilic cytoplasm or Ashkenazi chain. So you can see this. So fibrosing variant. So what happens in fibrosing variant histopathology? Microscopically, you know that as the name indicates, there is excessive fibrosis will be there and lymphoid infiltrate will be there, but less prominent. So already we know that it is more common Hashimoto's thyroiditis in middle-aged women, and also patient have diffuse enlargement of thyroid, painless for moderate goitrous enlargement. Patient has hypothyroidism, later hyperthyroidism. T3, T4 levels are decreased, and radioiodine uptake is also reduced. So what you have in Hashimoto's, so all these features you can have because of hypothyroidism. They have intolerance to cold, receding hairlines, you have facial and eyelid edema, dull blank expression of the face, extreme fatigue, thick tongue, slow speech, anorexia, brittle nails. Patient will have menstrual disturbances and constipation, muscle ache and weakness, dry skin, lethargy, apathy, and hair loss. Apart from that, the patient will have subnormal temperature, bradycardia, weight gain, thickened skin, and cardiac complications. So patient will have intolerance to cold, receding hairline, facial and eyelid edema, dull blank expression, extreme fatigue, thick tongue, slow speech, anorexia, brittle hair and nails, menstrual disturbances, all features of hypothyroidism, muscle ache, dry skin, lethargy, hair loss, all this. Subnormal temperature, bradycardia, thickened skin. So no increased risk of developing carcinoma. So Hashimoto's thyroiditis has no predisposition to development of carcinoma, but has predisposition to the development of a lymphoma, a malignant lymphoma. So Hashimoto's thyroiditis can develop into a malignant lymphoma, but not a carcinoma. So these are lymphoma cells, what you can see. So lymphoma, but not a carcinoma. So variants of autoimmune thyroiditis. What are the other variants of autoimmune? Subacute lymphocytic thyroiditis. So which is more often 3 to 6 months after delivery. So it is also called as postpartum thyroiditis, silent thyroiditis, painless thyroiditis, or autoimmune thyroiditis. That is after delivery 3 to 6 months. This is a variant of autoimmune subacute lymphocytic thyroiditis. Next, little bit about other thyroiditis, that is subacute granulomatous thyroiditis or de Quervain's thyroiditis. Very, very important, subacute granulomatous thyroiditis or de Quervain's thyroiditis. So in this condition, granulomatous, so patient usually in granuloma, what do we have? Jade cells, lymphocytic infiltrate, epithelioid cells, all this we have. So similarly here also you have Jane cells. So that is why it is called as subacute granulomatous thyroiditis. So you have also called as Jane cell thyroiditis. It is a self-limited inflammation of thyroid gland. Etiology is unknown. Prodromal phase and preceding a respiratory infection. Usually the patient has a respiratory infection, so which leads to subacute granulomatous thyroiditis. More common in young and middle-aged women. Painful moderate thyroid enlargement with fever. So painful enlargement of thyroid with fever the patient will have. Hyperthyroidism features, early feature. Hypothyroidism feature with damage to the thyroid gland. It is a self-limiting condition. Complete recovery will occur within 6 months. So subacute granulomatous or de Quervain's thyroiditis, also called as Jane cell thyroiditis. It is a self-limited inflammation of thyroid gland. So etiology is not known. More common in young and middle-aged women, precedes a respiratory infection. There is a painful enlargement of thyroid gland with fever. Hyperthyroidism followed by hypothyroidism, where there is damage to the thyroid gland. Complete recovery occurs in 6 months. So what you have in subacute lymphocytic thyroiditis or subacute granulomatous thyroiditis. So there is focal, moderate asymmetrical or focal enlargement of thyroid gland. Cut section is firm and yellowish white. So what you have in microscopically, you will have abscess formation or micro abscess formation. And you also have granulomatous appearance, that is granuloma with central colloid material surrounded by histiocytes or macrophages with multinucleate Jane cells. For advanced cases, you have fibroblastic proliferation. So grossly morphological on cut section, there is enlargement of thyroid, asymmetrical, firm and yellowish appearance. Microscopically, what do you see? Abscess formation. So abscess formation, which are nothing but microabscess formation, very small abscesses, and inflammation, excessive acute inflammatory infiltrate like neutrophils. All this you can see in case of in the thyroid cut section. And apart from that, you can see that there are granuloma formation. Granulomas usually comprising of colloid material in the center, surrounded by histiocytes or macrophages and multinucleate cells or multinucleate cells. That's why granuloma formation. In advanced cases, you have fibroblastic proliferation. So palpations, morphologically similar appearance, palpation thyroiditis, vigorous thyroid palpation, mechanical trauma to follicle. So similar, you can see similar to granulomatous thyroiditis or de Quervain's thyroiditis. So differential diagnosis, palpation thyroiditis, where you have similarly inflammation, excessive inflammation in thyroid parenchyma. This is a differential diagnosis for thyroiditis. So you can see that there is abscess formation, that is so you can see that there is lot of inflammation, inflammatory infiltrate, lot of inflammation, and apart from that, the colloid material surrounded by histiocytes, and also this is you can see here colloid material in center surrounded by histiocytes, and you can also sometimes appreciate in case of decurvatus. So granulomas, that's similar to a granuloma, you have colloid material in the center surrounded by histiocytes. This is colloid material surrounded by histiocytes, lymphocytes, and neutrophils. This is looking like a granuloma. So what you can see, several multinucleated gene cells in Purines thyroiditis, several multinucleated, all these are but so gene cells with multinucleation. So the several multinucleated gene cells you can see, and apart from that you can see inflammatory infiltrate comprising of tiny abscesses with neutrophils, predominantly neutrophils. So micro abscesses, so that is predominantly neutrophils that you can see, and several multinucleated gene cells, with microabscesses, that is predominantly neutrophils, and neutrophils you can see. So predominantly neutrophils and multinucleated gene cells, atrophic follicles. So Riddle's thyroiditis. The most significant feature is the thyroid becomes very hard, stony hard. That is why it is called stony hard thyroid, and it is a chronic disease. So Riddle's thyroiditis. So and very hard thyroid. So Riddle's thyroiditis, Riddle's stroma or invasive fibrosing thyroiditis, stony hard thyroid. So Riddle's thyroiditis. So what happens here? Thyroid, it compresses surrounding structure, leading to dysphagia, dyspnea, recurrent laryngeal nerve paralysis. So there is stony hard thyroid. So in case of Riddle thyroid or fibrosing thyroiditis, so the thyroid is very much fibrous, stony hard, and because of its stony hardness, it compresses the surrounding structure like trachea, esophagus, leading to dysphagia, dyspnea, and laryngeal nerve palsy. And what happens in Riddle's thyroiditis? It is often mistook for a thyroid carcinoma because of its hardness, and more common in female in 4 to 7 decade. Etiology is unknown. So multifocal idiopathic fibrosclerosis. So it is also called as multifocal idiopathic fibrosclerosis. Multifocal idiopathic fibrosclerosis. Idiopathic retroperitoneal, mediastinal or retroorbital fibrosis, and sclerosing cholangitis. Or it is also called as idiopathic fibrosclerosis. And all these conditions like idiopathic retroperitoneal, mediastinal, retroorbital fibrosis, cholangitis, sclerosing cholangitis, all of them occur along with Riddle's thyroiditis. So what are the other conditions with Riddle's thyroiditis? Retroorbital fibrosis can occur, sclerosing cholangitis, idiopathic retroperitoneal fibrosis, all that occur with Riddle's thyroiditis. So what you have, thyroid is grossly very stony hard, firm, adherent, and with many lobulations. Asymmetrical contracted thyroid. Microscopically, what you see, thick fibrocollagenous tissue, atrophy thyroid follicles, and focally scattered lymphocytic invasion and invasion of adjacent muscle tissue. So you have asymmetrically contracted thyroid, stony hard, very hard, and it is devoid of lobulation. Microscopically, you can have thick fibrocollagenous tissue, atrophied thyroid follicles, and also very focal lymphocytic infiltrate and invasion to the adjacent muscle tissue. So by this we finish the autoimmune condition. Mainly focus is on Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which we have finished. A little bit about decurvins or granulomatous thyroiditis we discussed, and most importantly also we discussed Riddle's thyroiditis. So all these may, especially Hashimoto's thyroiditis, may be given as a short notes or very short notes, and the Riddle's thyroiditis and decurvariance thyroiditis may be given as very short or short notes. So these are very rarely asked, but for completion's sake, we have finished these autoimmune conditions. Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you. So with this, we have finished everything about thyroid. Rare and common things, everything we finished. So most commonly in thyroid, they will ask you about the thyroid tumors. Mainly name some 4 malignant tumors of thyroid, or they may ask about individual malignancies of thyroid. Mostly they ask about thyroid malignancy, which we have discussed, and most commonly individual malignancies of thyroid they will ask most commonly, either medullary or papillary. They will ask most commonly. Sometimes they may ask about Hashimoto's thyroiditis also. That's why we finished in this particular class. So sometimes pituitary adenomas, that's why we have discussed about pituitary adenomas, pheochromocytoma, all that we have finished. So all these are most commonly discussed endocrine tumors, and also the pheochromocytoma also they have asked many times. So please go through paragangliomas also. They have pheochromocytoma, paragangliomas also they have asked. Multiple endocrine neoplasias also, what they are also they have asked. All this we have discussed in our classes. Okay, so we are finished with endocrine tumors in total. Thank you very much.
This conference will now be recorded.